Hey everyone, today we're going to be going over our S130 280ZX front lower control arm. We're going to be doing a product overview which will consist of what's included, the optional dust boots, the construction of the control arms themselves, our QC process, base settings for the control arms, as well as our different color options. So first we're going to go over what's included. You're going to have a pair of the front lower control arms, pair of the tension arms, pair of the U-brackets, the sway bar links, pair of the step washers, as well as the hardware pack. Next, we're going to go over the optional dust boots. Now, these are just rubber dust boots. They are not pre-installed, but they would just slide over the bearings on the tension arms as well as the front lower control arms. We do recommend them if you plan to daily drive them or get a couple thousand miles a month on them. If it's a show car that might only experience a couple hundred miles a year, then I think you're perfectly fine without them. But they do a good job of keeping the dust, debris, and grit and grime out of the bearings, which prolong the life of the bearings and reduce the chances of any premature wear. Now next, we're going to go over the construction process. Now, these are fully steel welded control arms. You can see here they have an integrated ball joints, which is greasable, which is always a plus for long-lasting ball joints. It's a fully MIG welded and TIG welded design on the frame. The brackets are steel, the aluminum step washers. You have steel sway bar bushings. You have steel sway bar links with polyurethane bushings, and a scallop tube design on the tension arm. Scallop tubes makes them extremely rigid and very strong. Next, we're going to go over our QC process. Our QC process consists of a lot of different things to check off on. The first part is going to be the packing list accuracy. We want to make sure that everything that the customer has ordered is there. Once everything is accurate to the order, we'll go to the next step, which is our hardware sheet. We want to make sure that everything, the hardware sheet, bolts, nuts, washers, miscellaneous items are all there, that nothing's missing. So then the customer doesn't get any unexpected surprises when he goes to get installed. Or if there is something missing that is on back order, we will have to reach out to the customer, let them know of that. Next is going to be the cosmetic threshold. We want to make sure there's no major chips, dings, dents, or scratches onto the powder coated surface as well as the aluminum tubes. So we're going to visually check to make sure that there's any scratches and chips. Now, something to note is that we do powder coat these parts. So with them being powder coated, they might incur with a small hook cosmetic impurity. Now, some of these lighter parts will hook with a very small hook that does a pretty good job of hiding them. And if it's a standard color, we'll hit them with a paint pen. But some of the larger items might see a larger hook mark. We try to do a good job with hiding the hook in some area where the control arm itself would have a bolt or hardware through it, so they won't be able to be visually seen once they're actually installed. The next step is going to be our hole tolerances. So we have a keychain here with all the holes. We have a binder that tells you what the hole callouts are. We want to make sure that all the holes are free and clear of any BBs to make sure that there's nothing going to be interfering. Now, something to note is that some holes might be a little bit thicker and might have a little more powder coating on them. Because powder coating is somewhat inconsistent, that is something to consider, that you might have some powder coat that you might have to open up on there. The next part is going to be the threads. The only exposed threads on the control arm is going to be these where the sway bar would mount to. Now we just check to make sure that the threads are clear and loose, and we check every single thread to make sure the customer doesn't run the risk of stripping a thread or having it cross-threaded once he goes to install it. The next part of the thread is always going to be checking to make sure all the bearings are also clear. We want to make sure there's no leftover sandblast media, grit, or grime, and we want to be able to adjust these by hand. Finally, the final check of the QC process is going to be the bushings. We want to ensure that the bushings are orientated correctly for the final customer. Here we can see that the bushing is orientated correctly because the sway bar mounts in the middle. The next, we're going to go over the base settings for the control arms. So something that's going to get you started onto the control arm before you get in alignment is about a 1/4 inch of exposed thread past the jam nut. Now, when we ship these, we do have these installed all the way in. So I'm going to go ahead and take these out a little bit. So we want to leave about a 1/4 inch of exposed thread past the jam nut itself. That'll get you a base setting until you get an alignment professionally done. And the same thing goes with the tension arm. You're going to want to thread out the tension arms and leave about a 1/4 inch of exposed thread past the jam nut. And finally, we're going to go over our color options. Now, this is a beautiful purple lilac color that the customer picked from prismaticpowders.com. We do offer a bunch of different colors. To get a good video to see what the colors that we do offer, take a look at the video down here. And to see these getting installed onto a ZX, take a look at the video down here. Thanks again.